The Fed just hiked rates once again, this time by another 50 basis points. The good news is there's a lot to be optimistic about going forward. So let's jump into some of those specifics and get to the bottom line. Good morning. As expected, the Fed has hiked the Fed funds rate once again, this time by another 50 basis points, and that brings their target range to between 4.25% and 4.5%. Now, this is up sharply from where rates were only 9 months ago. At that time, the Fed had rates in a range between 0% and 0.25%, so a pretty significant difference. And of course, we've seen some of those impacts. In their most recent statement, the Fed said that ongoing increases would continue to be appropriate, and they will also continue their balance sheet reduction. Not really a surprise there, but the surprise did come from the fact that the Fed funds rate outlook, which is where 17 of the 19 members of the Fed forecasted a Fed funds rate of over 5%. There was a bit of a more optimistic sentiment during the Q&A from Jerome Powell when he acknowledged that positive news we've seen when it comes to inflation data received in the months of October and November. He said that it showed a welcome reduction in the monthly pace of price increases. And he went on to telegraph for the next meeting on February 1st, a 25 basis point rate hike. So this continued slowing in the pace of hikes definitely signals to the market that inflation is getting under control and is a really positive signal. We are expecting inflation to continue to come down more quickly, especially in the spring, which could lead to significant improvements in interest rates. So we'll want to keep a close eye on that. And in speaking of inflation and looking at a little bit more detail on the numbers that we got for the month of November, we received the November Consumer Price Index report very recently, CPI. That showed that overall inflation increased by 0.1%, which was below expectations. So we like to see that. The year-over-year inflation declined significantly from 7.7% to 7.1%. This is much cooler than what the expectations were. And the real story when it comes to this data specific to this report was the core rate. The core rate strips out food and energy prices, which are considered to be more volatile. And that core rate increased by 0.2%, which was softer than what was anticipated. And as a result, that brings the year-over-year core inflation rate down from 6.3% to 6%. So lower than expectations across the board, continued cooling when it comes to inflation. And remember, the Fed funds rate has increased, but the real driver for mortgage interest rates is inflation. So seeing that move in the right direction is definitely positive long-term for mortgage interest rates. Now, talking about rates, Jake, tell us a little bit about where rates are currently and application volume and the data that we have from the MBA.
As always, we got the weekly application survey from the Mortgage Bankers Association, which showed that purchases rose another 4% week over week, putting them down now only 38% year over year. Purchases, for the record, are now up 5 out of the last 6 weeks. So we love to see that. The interest rate remained relatively stable, going from 6.41 to 6.42. But as a reminder, last year around this time, we had a rate of around 3.3, which is about 3% lower than where we're at currently. Back to you, Kyle.
Good stuff, Jake. Yeah, some positive signals there, which we love to see. And in some other good news, the FHFA, which is an acronym for the Federal Housing Finance Agency, probably don't need to try to remember that one, but it is the agency that oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So they have a big influence on the housing market. They have made some recent changes to help first-time homebuyers. So first-time homebuyers falling within certain income limits are now going to have access to home purchases and loan programs that will have lower interest rates and costs as a result of these recent changes. These changes from their projections are expected to result in savings for approximately 1 in 5 borrowers. So a pretty significant move that's made there. Now, if you'd like to get some more specific details on how this change could potentially affect your clients, please send a direct message or drop a comment. We'd be happy to connect with you and give you some more specific details and information. But apart from that, please continue to stay tuned for updates as we have more information in the markets. We'll continue to cover that for you to really try to help you better operate in this environment we're in as a top-notch real estate professional in today's market. So we'll look forward to seeing you next time on The Bottom Line.